We start the show from the conviction of Jose Ibarra, the Venezuelan illegal who murdered Laken Riley. And if you were worried about the left changing its opinion on issues that prove consequential in the re-election of Donald Trump, you can put that aside. Because let me read you the headline that appeared on the initial version of the story today from MSNBC, looking back at the trial of Jose Ibarra for murdering Laken Riley. The headline read, "Laken Riley's killer never stood a chance." Not Laken Riley never stood a chance. Being stalked and murdered by this twice at least detained illegal in the United States, but that Laken Riley's killer never stood a chance. Now, if you want to say a headline where the case against Jose Ibarra was overwhelming, Laken Riley, even though I disagree with this, as I said yesterday, Laken Riley's family gets justice because they didn't get justice because Jose Ibarra, thanks to a woke prosecutor in the jurisdiction where he committed this murder, refused to prosecute him with the death penalty as a specification. But that would be better than Laken Riley's killer never stood a chance. This was roundly criticized, as you might imagine, including by the president-elect. Donald Trump said, "You literally cannot make up this level of depravity. These people are sick. The guy is a murderer. He's an illegal alien that killed an innocent young woman, but MSNBC would rather go to bat for him. However much you hate MSNBC, it is not enough." Yes, and as I said yesterday, Joe Biden, Alejandro Mayorkas, and Kamala Harris are lucky that they are not indicted as co-conspirators in this murder. I told you that I was struggling with whether or not I should mention the danger that Venezuelan illegals in Tren de Aragua, the gang, pose to one of my daughters who was in college in close proximity to one of the U.S. cities where Tren de Aragua is said to have a presence, 16 U.S. cities. I did have that conversation with her last night after discussing it with my wife and her mom. And so, you know, I didn't want to scare her, but I think we all need to let our kids know how dangerous this threat is. And guess what? It's going to get worse over the next 2 months. It is going to get worse. Now, why do I lead the show today instead of with the plethora of local headlines that I have with this story about the Biden administration doing everything that it can? They're Democrats, remember? They did everything they could to lower gas prices, except gas prices went up. They did everything they could to lower prices at the grocery, except prices went up. They did everything they could to quell the unrest in the Middle East, except it blew up. They did everything they could to help Ukraine, except Russia is gaining every single day on Ukraine. And now Ukraine is escalating with weapons that Joe Biden first withheld from Ukraine and now is given to Ukraine. But why do I lead with this? Because there is no child, there is no person in this country, particularly a female, who is not in danger from illegal aliens. Because they traffic in sex trafficking, because that is one of their big lucrative side enterprises, and because they're criminals and they have no respect for women. I don't know why. No, I do know why, because they're evil and they have no attachment to the truth and to God. The left doesn't see or care, because both are true. They don't see and they don't care about the danger to women in our country, though there are myriad examples of women who have been raped, assaulted, terrorized, or murdered by illegals. But here's what the Biden administration is doing as it stages what we've been told, lectured, is going to be a peaceful transition. They love to look down their glasses at you and say, we're going to do a peaceful transition of power. We're not going to do a January 6th. We're going to do a peaceful transition of power. Okay, well, if you're going to do a peaceful transition of power, and you know that Donald Trump, one of his top agenda items is what? Deporting illegal aliens. Then if you want to do a peaceful, seamless transition of power, what would be better to not do anything else to make illegal immigration worse? Or would it be kind of a huge impediment to put roadblocks in the way of the Trump administration with newly enacted policies that make illegal immigration easier? Of course, you know that the right answer is the former, but you know that the Biden administration is going to do the latter. And in fact, they are doing the latter. They are launching a new immigration and customs enforcement portal starting in early December in New York City that will allow illegals to bypass in-person check-ins at their local ICE office. Where was Jose Ibarra before he went to Atlanta on a flight paid for by taxpayers, where he then stalked and murdered Laken Riley? Oh, that's right. He was in New York City. So this is something that legacy media is not going to tell you about. But the New York Post reports that this will make it easier for migrants to flee authorities because the software has proven to be glitchy and unreliable. And even when it does work, the new app does not check for past arrests or outstanding warrants, something the old system that they're replacing did do. So for instance, and I don't know how, it obviously must not have worked very well, because Jose Ibarra had a criminal record in the United States of America when he went to whoever you go to, whatever NGO, non-governmental organization, or other governmental organization, to get a free flight to Atlanta at the taxpayer's expense. He had been arrested in New York City. That should have red flagged him for a free flight, unless, of course, they deemed it not to be serious enough. But they're going to enroll 100,000 illegals in New York City into this new program to make it easier to evade capture when Trump takes office. Now you say, well, that's all right. Donald Trump will just sign an executive order and we'll take that away. No, because once you have a policy in place blessed by the U.S. government, then it has legal backing, and it's harder to overturn in the courts, because you can say, look, this is a law. This is signed by a U.S. president. Like, you can't just, another president just can't come in, or at least there's a plausible legal challenge to it. In court, Customs and Border Protection Commissioner Mark Morgan is slamming the Biden administration for this. He says what they're trying to do in the last final days in office is put up as many roadblocks and obstacles and throw as many grenades as they can on their way out. And he talks about the difficulty of getting this overturned in court, because as of last year, they make a point. Oh, you got an appointment. You got to come back to court sometime, right? You're able to go wherever you want to go, but here's a court date. How many of them show up for their court date? Not very many. And how fully booked are the courts? As of early this year, the New York courts were fully booked through October of 2032 for hearings on migrants released into the U.S. 8 years into the future, they were already booked, and now they're making it easier for illegals to evade capture. New York has almost 250,000 illegals, and 58,000 of them, 58,000, are being cared for at taxpayer expenses in city-funded shelters like the Roosevelt Hotel, which used to be a really nice hotel in New York City. But we can't give migrants anything less than our best. We can't make them stay in a tent somewhere. Not in the wintertime, they might get cold. Now, this new app doesn't work on Android phones. It doesn't work on laptops when they're used to check people in. And it only shares the location of the migrant, the illegal, for 7 days. It also makes it harder for the Biden administration to monitor them via ankle bracelets. And it gives aliens multiple avenues to be untracked with no impediment at all to their whereabouts. So again, this won't be on legacy media tonight, but that is what the Biden administration is doing. They haven't flooded the country with enough illegals. There aren't enough heartbreaking stories like Laken Riley and Rachel Morin and Jocelyn Ungry. They're going to